All right, the Fed's going to hold rates steady, announced today, but two members of that board voted to lower them. Stephen Myron, who was recently appointed to the board by Donald Trump, and Christopher Waller, who is on President Trump's short list to replace Powell as chair, Jerome Powell as chair. Joining us, anchor and correspondent at Bloomberg News, David Gura, and professor of economics and public policy at the University of Michigan, Justin Wolfers. David, how significant is it that Christopher Waller is one of the people that wanted to lower rates? Is that because he believes rates should be lowered, or is it because he wants the job?
There are a chorus of people who know him and know his work who think that this is a genuine gesture by Chris Waller, who has a PhD in economics, has been an academician for much of his career, making a decision based on that alone. I will say it's difficult in this moment when, yes, he is one of these four finalists for this position of Fed chair nominee, to think a bit cynically that maybe he's doing this to send a signal to the president. I'd be very curious what Justin thinks in light of this as somebody who's familiar with Chris Waller's work. But the chorus, as I hear it, is let's take this at face. Let's take this as Chris Waller, who has raised concerns about the labor market pretty regularly. It's nothing new that we're seeing here from Governor Waller as a sign that this is something that he does in fact believe. He disagrees with the Fed's move today to keep rates where they are, Katie.
Justin, weigh in on that.
There's so many levels there. Look, here's the counter argument, which is throughout Chris Waller's career, he's always been concerned that inflation is too high, almost relentlessly the entire time that he was actually on the Fed. And so all of a sudden, at this sudden moment, he's convinced that rates are too low. It's a first for him, and it's at a very convenient moment. Look, I think the reality is that we're all very human people, and you can look at things as intensely and intensively as you want and even believe that you're being honest to yourself. But it is quite extraordinary that at a moment where there are two people who've got something to gain from the president's affection, they're the only two people who dissent, and they happen to dissent in ways that are completely at odds with everything they'd said or written over the previous decade.
All right. The Wall Street Journal argues that Donald Trump might be looking for something in a new Fed chair that doesn't exist. A new chair who will pursue his demands for lower interest rates while still commanding enough credibility on Wall Street and from his colleagues to deliver them. Help me understand that tension, David.
So we know that the president has been burned and continues to be burned by the person he picked for this job now several years ago. He picked Jay Powell. We should all remember that. This is his choice. He wanted Jay Powell to be the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Of course, Joe Biden nominated him once again. But that's very much front of mind for the president as he goes through this process. I think that Justin and I would agree that this has been going on for a very long time. This parlor game of who's the president going to pick probably lasted longer than I think a lot of us thought it would. But it's clear that this is sort of what's animating the president. He is somebody who is, as we all know, a believer that rates should be much lower. He's been explicit on Truth Social in his comments that he wants to pick somebody who agrees with him in that regard. All the while, we have these four individuals, these four finalists, saying the right thing, at least publicly, that they are partial to or proponents of Fed independence. So there's this very strong tension between the two of them. And I think what's in that piece by Meredith McGraw and Nick Timros of the Wall Street Journal is this awareness that, you know, it seems like none of these four satisfy that completely. Whenever we hear from the president talking about who his pick's going to be, he often brings up Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He says that he'd like to pick him, but Scott Bessent doesn't want the job. I think that there is this school of thought that maybe there is somebody else beyond these four finalists. But again, this has lasted for a very long time. It's unclear who that fifth or sixth person might be, Katie.
Can I pivot for a second, Justin, and ask you about Trump accounts? So it's $1,000 going into accounts for new.
Katie, can I stick on this? Because this is amazing.
Sure.
The headline is, I want someone who'll do what I want, and I can't find anyone credible who'll do it. You know, there's a third option. Listen to people who are credible. I just wanted to get that out there just in case no one had thought about it.
Point taken. Can I ask you about Trump accounts now?
We can do whatever you want.
Okay. $1,000 for babies born between now and the end of Donald Trump's term. JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, both said that they'll match it, so $3,000. Is it a good idea? I mean, putting money into accounts, letting it grow, giving children when they turn 18, a stack of cash so long as the markets do well to either go to college or to put a down payment on a house. If it were any other person in charge, would this be getting a better reception?
Look, There's two things I like, Katie. I like babies and I like money. So why not combine the two of them? I mean, that just sounds like a really good proposal. Now, the economist in me is forced to ask the other question, which is or what? So there's two or whats to think about, which is if you actually cared about raising the living standards of working and middle class people, the or what is, well, maybe we could, instead of giving huge tax cuts to the rich, actually direct our tax cuts so that they help working and middle class people. So here's a little payout, and I hope you won't look at what's really going on behind the curtain, which is tax cuts for the rich. The other or what here is at some point someone's got to talk about the budget deficit. Chair Powell actually did it today. He said, given that we're in what looks like an economy close to full employment, the idea that we're running deficits this large is just absolutely bananas.
How about let's do this and also reform our tax system. Do this and get the debt under control. Those, not the or, but the and, I think would sound a lot better. Justin Wolfers, you have a Best Dad mug behind you. I think David Gura would disagree with that title. I think he would think that he owns that title.
We'll fight it out.
I will let you guys hash out that fight. Gentlemen, thank you so much.